also feel like our audience, the people listening, like they're gonna match our vibe. Like we are like grandmas drinking tea. Like that is the vibe. Like we have like your grandma's lukewarm but still good tea. Like it's really interesting. You might learn something, but it's probably not going to be like the piping hot tea talking about like everybody's least favorite influencer online. Hey everyone, welcome to Spill the Tea. We are Cass and Amanda, the co-founders of Foxtrot Branding. We're really excited for another episode today.
And in these episodes, we share about navigating our lives as designers and business owners and the challenges and rewards that come up along the way.
So in today's episode, we are going to be spilling on our biggest wins this year, our biggest fails, and then talking about why and how you really need to be doing an audit for your business at the end of every year so you can set better goals in the new year.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're going to share like the real wins, the real like fails or, things we wish we had done differently. So it's going to be good. I've taken my Vyvanse. I've drank all my coffee. So
maybe that's what I need. Before this call, I was like, I'm so tired, like so low energy.
We're like on opposite ends of the energy spectrum today.
Yeah, I need something.
Usually we meet in
my La Croix.
Your La Croix.
La Croix.
I feel like usually we meet in the middle as far as like energy goes, and we're like not super high energy people. We're like usually pretty chill, but I feel like we're more like on opposite ends than we usually are today.
Yeah.
Before we dive in, if you have enjoyed this podcast or if you listen to this episode and you like it, don't forget to leave us a rating and review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can give this video a like because that really does help us out and help us reach more designers with our podcast.
Great. Okay, so let's jump in. This year, let's talk about like a little recap. How has this year been for us, Cass?
It's been, I guess, kind of a mixed bag. It's felt long in the way that we were like talking about some things that happened in spring, and that feels like 2 years ago, even though it was just this past spring. What do you think?
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's been a long year. I think a lot of things have gone really well, and then some things, which we'll talk about later, have just been like maybe not as fruitful as we had hoped, which is like a little disappointing, but that's also just kind of how it is in business sometimes. Like not everything goes the way you would hope it would go sometimes. But I will say I feel like client-wise, we've not really had any like super difficult client situations or no like difficult clients. Like there's always like little things that you have to problem solve sometimes, which is fine. But overall, I feel like the clients we've had have been great and like really fun projects this year.
Yeah, I feel like our client experience and our process for that has only gotten better every year, and that's really paid off. And overall, like we've hit, financially most of the goals that we've wanted to. We'll talk about that. But for me, the biggest challenges are always just, I think, mentally, like feeling mentally good about how we're doing. And we'll talk about why it's important to get into that data so that you can have like a proper, like accurate view of what's actually happening, because it's easy to get down on yourself or maybe even think you're doing
to
like
let
great.
your emotions override like what's actually happening.
Yeah. I think that is honestly the number one challenge for most entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Owning a business is like very emotional. We've talked about this in past episodes, but
it's turbulent.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about like our wins, like what has gone really, really well for us.
Yeah. And when we talk about wins, we're always going to bring up things that are not your standard money wins or data wins, because we really appreciate the things that just bring us joy and make us feel fulfilled, whether that's something in our business or something that our business allows us to do. We have kind of a little list here of things, but one for me would definitely be that we've gotten to collaborate with some designers and some of our friends as a part of our rebrand. That's also one of our wins, but I've really enjoyed getting to work with other designers. And I think you can sense that in I can see it in our business, the result of that, because what we're putting out is, as far as like content goes and just for our rebrand, it's been really cool to be able to see other people's like hands on it.
Yeah, for sure. I think like the rebrand was definitely one of my proudest moments, I guess, for the year. Like it was just really nice to finally have our branding and to have the time to like refresh our branding. So I think like, business just kind of, it keeps going, like it never stops. So it just felt like there wasn't time to like do the rebrand, but it really needed to be done. And so it felt really good to have that finish and feel like the brand finally caught up to like the level of work that we're delivering for our own clients. It felt a lot more updated and just a lot more personal to us. So I was really excited to finally have that done. We put so much work and so much time into that.
Yeah, I think that's so relatable for most designers to feel like I'm putting out really good work for my clients, but it can feel stressful when you feel like your own branding, your website design doesn't reflect that level. And that is something that can kind of just sit, I guess, like on the back burner and feel like a bummer because you want, your own platforms to represent your skill and just where you're at currently. Like, I think some of our branding did feel outdated to what we're doing now. So it was a lot of work and a lot of energy that isn't necessarily we did this thing and we're getting this immediate payoff for it, but being able to just feel proud of what we're putting out, that is an immediate payoff that I'm so glad we put the energy in for.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's worth it in the long run.
I think another win for me would definitely just be that we've been able to consistently this year take the same amount of time off as far as our scheduled breaks go in the winter and the summer, which we talk about ad nauseum because we love taking breaks.
We
But we've
love
all
a
we love
vacation.
a vacation. I also snuck in probably a few more vacations than you, Amanda, this year, which is kind of flipped. I feel like
Maybe, I don't know.
from past years. I took a fall like week long little break and
Did like a beach trip and
a beach trip,
yeah.
something else I can't
Hmm.
remember, but it's just so nice to be able to have that flexibility of like, hey, my husband's family, wants to go on a beach trip this week. We don't have a client projects scheduled for that week. Like, could we make it happen? And I, as a business owner, you do have to like keep an eye on things. I'm gonna bring my computer. I'm gonna check in, but it was really nice to be able to take those.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like you're always going to have like a little bit of responsibility, to
Yeah,
maintain things. But we usually do a really good job during like that summer and winter break to like totally unplug. But there's like a lot of prep work that goes into that. So I'm so glad that we've like figured that out though, because there's so many designers that we know who like haven't taken a vacation or any time off in forever. And I think that they just like forget like that they can do that, or they fear that like they'll lose money and stuff. So we've done like a whole episode on all of that, but I think that's definitely worth listening to. If you guys are in the same place where you've like not taken a vacation, I think that's like one of my favorite things about what we do in our business. Our biggest win is like being able to take long extended time off from work.
yeah, yeah.
So worth it.
I think another big win that like we have to mention is launching this podcast. That was a huge win
Yeah.
for us. We honestly don't have really specific goals for it. um, we mainly just wanted to turn our email newsletter into a podcast so that we could more like authentically, share about the business topics we want to and just have a more personal connection. That's kind of the goal for it. And we've learned how to podcast, put it out on the platforms, figured that out. So I'm really glad that we've done that. And I feel excited that we've been able to do it every month and excited to continue it next year.
Yeah, it's been a fun new addition for sure. Okay, so now diving into some of our biggest bombs. What have we like not done super well, or what's been tough this year? Do you want to share one?
Yeah. I think one thing that's like taken up a lot of our energy, not necessarily in a completely bad way, but is just ongoing client requests and continuing to work with our clients and figure out like our system for that because we changed it a little bit
Mm-hmm.
by creating a like client request form because we're trying to basically get our project management so that we can bring someone on and keep things super organized and make that transition easy. So that's just been, I guess, like a transition of figuring that out, figuring out how we
Mm-hmm.
want to adapt our pricing a little bit for it, when we're going to do it, the timelines. That's taken up a lot of our energy. And you're always going to have learning experiences when you try something new and like a new format. So there's been some things where we're like, maybe that type of service can't be worked into this like package or this
Yeah.
thing, this format we wanted to do it in.
For context, by client request, we just mean like ongoing, like one off work. So, like,
Hmm.
sometimes clients will come to us, like, just needing, I don't know, like a brochure, or like sometimes they've asked for packaging, stuff like that. And so, we're trying to figure out, like we have different hour packages, just figuring out how all of that works and like how to deal with the timelines with that on top of our other project timelines has been like a little bit tricky to figure out, but it has brought in a lot of extra income for us. So like that is kind of a win. Like it's
Hmm.
definitely cushioned our revenue quite a bit. And we've actually surprisingly had a lot of our clients like need extra work this year, which has been great.
Yeah.
But we just need to like figure out those kinks a little bit more. But I think by next year we'll have it down better.
Yeah, I think so too. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't offer a lot of technical retainers just due to the type of businesses we work with and like what they need It just
And what
doesn't
we
always
want to do too.
and what we want to do. It doesn't always fit into a retainer model, which can make it a little bit
Mhm.
more complicated to do all these like one-time requests. So we're figuring it out, but I think we're definitely getting there in terms of smoothing it out and making it more of like a repeatable system.
For sure. Yeah. Let's see. One that I can think of too that's been tough has been like just battling with like Instagram and TikTok, and like I still don't feel personally like I have a good system for TikTok creation. Like I keep saying for like the last year, like I'm gonna get back into it. I'm gonna have a good system. I still have not figured that out for myself. I don't know what I need to do to get myself to make more content more consistently. I always just feel like I don't have a good idea or I don't have enough time to actually do it. I don't have like a good process for batching. So that's kind of like what I'm personally struggling with. But with Instagram, it's just like, I don't know. I'm sure you guys all feel the same. It just feels like everything sucks. Like all the social media platforms suck. It's really hard to grow. It's really slow on Instagram. It feels like we'll put stuff out and like hardly anyone will see it.
Yeah.
And it's just hard when you try to put so much work into like creating good content, but I don't even know what's good and what's not because the numbers don't look that much different like from
Yeah.
one post to another. So it's like I really can't tell. Like I
Like finding
just
that
think
balance
we're not
too of
good at Instagram. I don't know.
it can feel depressing. I think a lot of people relate to just feeling
Mhm.
depressed about Instagram specifically. And as far
Yeah.
as the numbers go, it's like, well, I know that likes and that kind of data are not always indicative of how your content is doing. Like, for example, we've posted a few client focused posts this week and they're not doing great. Like, they're doing mid, but we got a client inquiry from Instagram this week that I think was a result of one of those posts. So
Yeah.
it's hard to find that balance, though, of feeling, of knowing exactly what's a success,
Like
for
what's
that type of
working, what's
content.
not. Yeah.
I think in light of some of that data, like when we do our full on planning meeting for next year, we're gonna be thinking about like, do we need to be putting less energy into this? Like seeing what is actually paying off the most. Cause I don't think we're gonna ever leave Instagram fully. I know some designers who
Yeah.
have and have just shifted to email marketing and like SEO, but it's not paying off in the way that it was 2 years ago. That's for sure. We know that.
Yeah.
I think another thing that's been kind of a struggle for us, not like a full on bomb or anything, but it's just adapting and figuring out our products in terms of our templates and courses. We've been making some updates to them this year, but it's been just interesting to see overall how the environment is shifting and how people view like courses and templates and what people are wanting out of that, and then also just making sure the formats we're doing launches in and releasing the templates in make sense for both what we want to do and what our audience is looking for. So we've just kind of been like adapting that, and I think we same kind of for what we were saying with social media. We have some plans for how we want to kind of change that and maybe change how we're launching stuff and putting it out there as far as templates and courses and products go.
Okay, so we thought it would be fun to share a quick little like facepalm moment. Was there a moment this year, Cass, where you're like, oh my gosh, like why did we do that? Or I can't believe that happened. Like, what was your facepalm moment this year?
Yeah, I think the one that comes to my mind is naming our podcast "Spill the Tea." We've like talked about that because me and Amanda are pretty like naturally wholesome people, like pretty
Like we don't
drama
want to be
avoidant.
gossiping online.
And with the reason we named it Spill the Tea is because we've had our our newsletter, our email newsletter that we've called Spill the Tea for the last couple of years, and I think when we started that, like Spill the Tea was kind of a really hot, like culturally relevant name for stuff. And I think it's faded out a little bit. And now I think the connotation is with like drama channels, or like
hmm
gossip channels. But we just kept the name for the podcast. But then after we started, I was like, I think, thinking about the searchability of it and stuff, I'm like, also, does this make sense for like our personalities and type of podcast we want to
Yeah, well,
have?
I think one of our design friends was the one who brought it up too. Because she was helping us like design some stuff, and she was like, "You guys need to spill some hotter tea. Like,
Yeah.
like your tea is not that hot." I'm like, I don't
Your
know,
tea is
because we
lukewarm.
are a little timid about like we don't want to. I don't know. There's a lot of podcasts out there who will share names of other businesses, share lots of details, and like that's just not the type of podcast we want to have. We like spilling the tea, like the behind the scenes details of like our business and what we've learned to help you guys. I think like we could definitely do more episodes about like our hot takes maybe on like industry relevant things. But that's just not always like our first like favorite thing to discuss either. So yeah, it is
Yeah.
just kind of funny. Like, why did we name it Spill the Tea then? Like, I don't know. Maybe there will be a rebrand for the podcast if we keep doing the podcast. We'll see.
If we
We'll see what
really can't
happens.
like get any more juicy or dramatic, if we just can't pull it out of
I
ourselves.
know. We're just not dramatic and sassy enough. Like, we just don't have enough tea.
We're trying though. I think as we continue, hopefully we'll like, feel a little bit more comfortable on
Yeah.
camera and like, be able to be a little bit more
But I also
juicy.
feel like our audience, the people listening, like they're gonna match our vibe. Like we are like
Right.
grandmas drinking tea. Like that is the vibe. Like we have like your grandma's lukewarm but still
Right.
good tea. Like it's really interesting. You might learn something, but it's probably not gonna be like the piping hot tea talking about like everybody's like least favorite influencer online or whatever. Like it's
Right.
not gonna be that. What was my face
Yeah, what was
palm
yours?
moment? Oh, I think recently we were just looking at like our finances and realized like there were like subscriptions we were paying for that we didn't realize we were paying for. And we're like, crap.
Oops.
We were like, we have a bookkeeper who like looks over all of our stuff, but we trust her so much. This is not good advice. Don't listen to this. But like we trust her so much that we like don't always like double check all of our like expenses on our bank statement and stuff. But she doesn't know like what we're spending and what we're not like meaning to spend on. So we were like, okay, we probably should start doing like a check of our like actual statements more often,
Right.
just to make sure that we don't have subscriptions on there that we don't want to pay for. So
This is not a Rocket Money advertisement, by the way. We're
yeah,
not going to
this
be
is
like,
not,
by the way, this podcast is sponsored by Rocket Money.
maybe one day.
I
Is
do have
Rocket Money
Rocket
bad? I
Money.
don't know. I have Rocket Money,
I
but
have it too. I haven't been
I
using
don't
it, let me
use it.
tell you.
I don't know how effective it is if you don't ever open the app.
I'd rather not categorize my expenses that are happening from the months of November and December.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
The gift giving expenses, they just are
Adds
what they
up.
are.
Yeah, adds up. We don't need to look at it. It's fine.
So yeah, we've had some failures. Maybe goals we didn't meet in the way we thought we would. We've had some face palm moments throughout the year, but we're not beating ourselves up over it or seeing it as like a reflection of our self-worth or anything like that. It's part of business, and
Mhm.
they're expected. Failures are expected, and
But
we
also
always
overall, like I think it is important to look at like the successes we've had because like I think
Mhm.
we've definitely had more successes than failures for sure this year,
Yeah.
and I think we should definitely be proud of that. I think that's one thing that like we kind of aren't always the best at is like looking at our successes and like actually enjoying that success and like celebrating that. We tend to like focus on the negative sometimes because we're always like we got to push through or we have to like adapt to this thing, this problem or whatever. So that's like something we are always trying to work on is like how can we
Yeah.
actually like celebrate and enjoy the good things because we actually have done pretty well even if we didn't hit every single goal in the way we hoped. We've done really well overall. We've supported our lifestyles. We've taken vacations. Like we've had great clients that we really love, great students in our courses. So all good things overall.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
that capitalistic mindset of like that gets ingrained
You didn't
in
hit that
me.
number. You're a
You didn't
failure.
keep growing, like you've always got to grow, grow, grow. Whereas, like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's never really been our goal. Like, yes, we do want to increase certain, revenue parts of our business or in
Mhm.
other areas, but like just maintaining is an excellent thing for a lot of businesses and a lot of people. Like, either, you do not always have to be growing up in a straight line for your goals and
Mhm.
your revenue.
Yeah. Consistent income is a good goal in
Yeah,
itself.
absolutely. Okay, so let's move into talking about why you should audit your business at the end of the year or just kind of like take a step back and ask yourself some big overarching questions. Yes, ask yourself some specific questions about your data too, but I think it's important because you need to like take that time first of all to sit down and reflect. And it's like one of those things that's like going to therapy or journaling, I feel like, because it's like, I don't need to do it, But once you sit down and actually start to reflect, it's like, oh, damn, why am I not reflecting more? This is actually really
Mhm.
beneficial.
Yeah, you like discover things about yourself or about your business, and it's really helpful. And especially with business related stuff, like you can actually look at like hard numbers and like use that to inform your decisions. So it's very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, you guys are probably like, "Yeah, duh, that's a good thing." But I just I sometimes forget to sit down and take the time to do it. So I think
Hmm.
it's important, and especially for me because we've touched on a little bit, I sometimes get too down on myself about things or think data that I think is one way and it's not as good as we thought it would be, but it's actually we were actually fine
Hmm.
in
Yeah,
certain
because I think
areas.
sometimes you'll be like, if a month felt kind of hard or if it felt kind of slow, you would assume that the business wasn't doing well. But then we
Mhm.
would like pull up our finance doc and it's like, oh, we already hit our goal for the month. Like we're fine.
Yeah.
But if it felt slow for some reason, like, you might assume that we were not doing well. Yeah, I think overall it's like super important to audit your business because auditing your business and like looking at hard numbers like actually gives you clarity, and that's going to help you know what's working, what's not, because you really don't want to be wasting your time. I think a lot of us will kind of just like fly by the seat of our pants when we're like running a business, but if you're at least a year in, then you have like a year's worth of data, and you definitely don't want to ignore that so you can continue growing your business and being more effective and efficient
Yeah.
as the years go by.
That's one thing I was gonna ask you, like, because it definitely, I think, makes sense if you're like a year in or more and you're more established and you can kind of more traditionally look at all these metrics and ask these questions. But what do you think about for people who are maybe just freelancing as more of a side gig, kind of casually, or have only been in business like officially for a year or less? Like, what would you recommend as far as auditing goes? Like the same process or
I mean, I think if you don't have any hard numbers to really look at, I mean, even if you work with a few clients, you have some numbers to look at, right? But if you don't have anything, you can still really go by just like qualitative data. Like you can kind of also just like ask yourself emotionally how certain things are going. Like if you have a service that feels like a pain in the butt to do every single time, maybe you should adapt and change that service and see if there's something else you could do. So I think like Cass said, just like it's just like therapy, it's just like journaling, like sit and take time to like pause and like really just like think on, how do your business feels, how things have been going for the last couple months or year or whatever. And if you have the numbers, great, look at them. If you don't, you can still go by like what feels good. Because I think so many people tend to forget that like if you're owning your own business, you're not working for someone else. You have so much power and control over what your day to day looks like. So if you're not happy with something, you have the power to change that. You can adapt your services, you can change your pricing. So I think like the end of the year is a good time to like kind of do a little look at that and do a refresh for the new year.
I think there's also an important mindset shift that some designers need to have if you are freelancing on the side or maybe you don't consider your design work like a full-time business or you don't call it a business, you just say I'm a freelancer. I think it's important to still consider and take on the mindset of like you are running a business. If you're doing
Hmm.
services for people, if you're paying taxes, that is, a business and you're a business owner, you could call yourself a freelancer too.
Hmm.
But I still think you should be taking the time to like reflect on these things and not just be like, oh, well, I'm just, doing some freelance services. I'll see how it goes next year. Like you said, Amanda, like you do have control over how you want to run things. And maybe it's important to reevaluate why you started freelancing. Maybe if you've been just wanting to supplement X amount of income for your family with these services, maybe that's changed. Maybe you want to step into a new goal for yourself or doing it in a different way. Don't discount yourself just because you aren't running a full-time business like we are, like other designers might be.
Yeah, and I think like at the very least, you should at least be like analyzing your pricing and like adjusting that for inflation. Like at the very least, that should be like the smallest change you're making. I would at least start there. Like I'm very against like don't be giving away free work, free money all the time. Like I get it, we tell you to do that for like your first like client or two just to get some portfolio work, but past that, even if it is just freelance stuff, I think you should still treat it with respect and treat yourself with respect and like pay yourself well. And of course like how much you charge will change over time, but I think it's important to like be intentional with what you're doing and make your time worth it, and like charge well for what you're doing because you provide a lot more value than you probably think you are.
No matter what level of business you're running, make sure that you're running your business and you're not letting it dictate your life or, control you. Like, make sure you're staying in charge of it. So I think doing an audit at
Yeah.
the end of the year is really important for making that happen. So, Amanda, do you want to talk about some of the audit questions we like to ask ourselves and kind of like what that process
Mhm.
looks like for us at the end of the year?
Okay, so we'll touch on a few questions here, but we do have a free workbook with even more. So if you want to dive into, analyzing, auditing your year and planning for the next, it's called the Map Out Your Year workbook, and the link will be in the show notes for this. So, one of the questions that we like to start with is just asking about how you feel. Like, what did you really love doing this year? And then also you can ask yourself, what did you hate doing? So again, like, don't let your business run you. Like, if you hate doing something, like, can you hire that out? Could you change that? Like, could you charge more for it? We definitely do that. If there's things we hate doing, yeah, we're going to charge more for that because we want it to be worth the effort. You can ask yourself, where do you need help in your business? So again, if there's anything you can outsource, that's a great question to think on, because there's also a lot of things that you can outsource for cheaper than you might realize. And I'm not suggesting like not paying other people well, but I just think some people might not know that like you can hire out like a junior designer for a lot cheaper than like your own rate might be right now, or that could help you book multiple projects so you can still pay them well, but you're bringing in more revenue for the business, stuff
Or
like
like
that.
a virtual assistant.
Virtual assistant, yeah, that's something we're kind of thinking on for the new year too. Another question would be, what do you want to do differently in your life and or business in the next year? So is there anything like, do you want extra vacation days? Do you want to take Fridays half off? Like, what is something you've always wanted to do? And like, do you think you can make that possible in the new year? And maybe you don't have to go straight into planning right then answering that question, but just like, what do you really want? Like, what would make you super happy to have next year in your life or your business? And then you can kind of reverse engineer and think like, how can I get there? What are the steps I need to take to make that happen?
Yeah, thinking really big picture, because I think the way we like structure these questions in the Map Out Your Year workbook is we do have the questions about specific data, which is incredibly important
Mm-hmm.
in how you should be basing a lot of your decisions. But we think it's really important to start from the big picture questions of, what did you love? What did you hate? How do you feel? Because that is going to set the tone for your next year too, to sit and just do some reflection about these questions.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely recommend getting the workbook so that you can see all of them. But Amanda, do you want to do like hot seat where we just go back and forth and ask each other some of these questions?
Yeah,
We haven't
sure.
done our year-end planning meeting yet. We're going to get there, but maybe this can like prompt us for some of the
Give
things
us
we
some
know we want to,
inspiration.
yeah,
Yeah.
talk about. Okay. Amanda, what did you love doing this year?
Crap, I haven't thought of an answer yet. What did I love doing this year?
And honestly, your answers to these questions, just so you guys know when you're filling out this workbook, it could be something in business, but it also could just be something in your life. I think whatever comes to your mind, like write
Yeah,
that
because I
down.
the first thing I thought of was not business related. I was like, what did I love doing? I was like, ooh, I loved like the trips I took, like especially that summer trip. Like that was just like a lifelong dream. I went to like Switzerland, Italy, and France, and that trip gave me so much more. Just like it made me feel so much more refreshed and gave me so much inspiration, which I then used for our brand or rebrand. So it kind of affected the business in a little bit of a way, but that was like my favorite thing. It was
Yeah.
just like being able to take like a long trip to somewhere amazing, and that fulfilled me and made me happier and made me feel more creatively inspired so that I'm better able to do my job. What did you love doing this year?
um, I think the main thing that comes to my mind is just getting to work with clients who I really enjoy working with and who
Mhm.
honestly feel like friends. We get to work with a decent amount of clients who are actually pretty close to our own age or even younger, which is
True, a lot of
crazy.
them are younger. Yeah.
It's like rude. You're running these incredible businesses and you're like
They're so
5 years younger than me.
successful. It's crazy.
That's crazy. But yeah, I really loved getting to collaborate, honestly. And a lot of those younger clients that we get to work with, or the ones that are our age, often also tend to be artists and creatives themselves. So we get to collaborate on projects where they actually do some of the artwork that gets integrated into the branding that we do or into the website design. And I just get a lot of fulfillment out of getting to collaborate in that way. And we just have a lot of mutual respect for each other and we appreciate each other's creativity. And we're like, how could we, work together to create an end product that is, so much better than what we could have each done on our own. So I've really enjoyed
Hmm.
that.
Plus, they always have really cute products,
Yes.
and that's why I'm so glad we like shifted into doing like pretty much only e-commerce now. Because I love like getting to see all these unique brands and like all their products that they create. Like, and I did a lot of my Christmas shopping from most of them too, which was really
100%.
fun. Like, it's fun to be able to shop from like websites that we built and stuff. Like, that's
Yeah. I mean, if
it
you
just
guys
feels very
want,
fulfilling.
it really does. If you want to check some of them out, some of our favorites have been Good Luck Tess,
Hmm.
goodlucktess.com, Apartment 5 with two
Hmm.
eyes. That wasn't from this year, but we love getting to work with her. The Outlaw
Good.
Oracle has been a really cool one. She does country music inspired tarot products. So she has like an oracle deck and a honky tonk tarot coloring book, which is so
And, like
cool.
candles and stuff. I love it. The other one I was just gonna list is Inkwell Threads. Great if you're like a
Yeah.
bookish person. You love books, love all the classics. She's got so many fun like designs for all of those.
Yeah, her t-shirt designs are so
They're so
good.
good.
Just really original, really well done stuff you'd want to wear. Did a big shopping haul from her for my friends and family, and I really considered for myself purchasing some of her banned books products,
Oh yeah,
because she has a really cool like banned books world tour sweatshirt that has like a list of all the banned books, but it looks like a rock
I should get
kind of
that.
like sweatshirt. It's so cool. And I actually just saw today that there's like some new book bannings
In
about to take place in
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. So
So
backwards.
I almost wish I had bought that, even though I don't need another sweatshirt and I didn't need to spend the money. I just want to like
We need the
give,
list. We need to
I want to give
preserve
the
the
finger to
list.
the government in some way. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Well, because she
should have got that.
donates part of the your purchase to like programs that help fight that too. So
Yeah, she has a couple products that go specifically to certain charities. So just
yeah.
so many cool clients.
Okay, so what did you maybe hate this year? Was there anything you loathed doing
Ooh.
this year?
Um, I think I'm finding more and more that I don't enjoy live launches
Mm.
as much as I used to.
Like for the
They
courses and stuff.
Yeah, for like our products, we don't do any live launches for like services, but for the product side
Mhm.
of our business, it just isn't it for me anymore. It really takes a toll on me mentally. It really stresses me out. It puts me in like just a really stressed out state. So that's been one of my
Yeah.
least favorite parts of the year, and that's I think part of what we're gonna like adapt so that we don't have to have like certain times of the year where it's just like stress mode. Another hot seat question for you, Amanda. Where do you need help in the business? Where do we need help in the
Mm.
business?
I think we've both talked about this a lot, where we both feel like we really need a VA. We have someone we think we're gonna hire soon, and like we just need help because there's so many tasks that go into like onboarding and like managing inquiries and stuff, and that really is eating into both of our days a lot. So that would be kind of the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, we really want to hire a junior designer, maybe for branding, maybe for web, maybe for both. We're not sure yet. That's kind of maybe like a down the line 2025 kind of thing. But I don't know, just having more team members, like contractors, to help manage the workload and manage like daily tasks would be awesome. Okay, what Cass, do you want to do differently in your life or business next year?
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe this is kind of small, but I think I would like to get back to always taking half day Fridays
Hmm.
if we could, which we did a lot at the beginning of this year, but then there were just sometimes because we were doing a lot of extra work of rebranding, redoing our website, just a lot of stuff where we didn't get to take off half day Fridays all the time. So that's one small thing I can think of that I would like to make sure we do consistently next year.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah,
What
that
about
really
you?
helps with our sanity for sure.
Yeah. Anything come to your mind that you want to do differently in your life or business?
I feel like I would kind of like to try like time blocking or something. It's something I've like
Mm,
looked into. Just like ADHD struggles, I really struggle with time management or like knowing how long things will take. Or also just having like I almost feel like I need like a time crunch to get things done sometimes. So I've kind of thought like maybe time blocking would help, which we already kind of do to an extent of like we block out certain times that are like just for these types of calls or those types of calls or these types of meetings. And like I have certain tasks that are like assigned to certain days, but I kind of am curious about like time blocking even further, like maybe that would help me, because I feel like sometimes I'll like put too much on my plate in a day and then feel like annoyed or disappointed if I don't get it all done, or like I won't put enough on there, or like not enough like pressure to make myself actually do things.
Yeah.
Or I'll be like, oh, well, I don't feel like doing that, so I'll do it on another day. But then that's when stuff stacks up on like a stressful day that I didn't know it was going to be so busy. So I feel like I need a better like system
You do have
there.
that really cute timer
I
for
do have the
time
timer,
blocking.
which I have it right here, but I kind of
Oh,
forget to
so
use it
cute.
sometimes.
Can you turn it off so you can like see the cute color in it?
Yeah, let me make sure the sound is off, because the sound honestly is
Oh,
very loud, which is annoying to me that it's so freaking loud.
oh, that's
But
aggressive.
it's cute because you can like set the time and it just slowly ticks back.
Oh.
But yeah, I don't like how loud the little alarm is. So it kind of makes me not use it. I can turn it off, but then I feel like I don't look and notice when it's off. But I mean, this would be helpful if I had like, I still feel like I need to assign like blocks of time for
Mhm.
tasks, maybe.
Yeah, I that makes me think something I want to do differently next year is probably actually time block batching video creation and content creation. I
Mhm.
think that's something we have to do
I
probably
know,
next
but I
year.
still haven't figured out how to do it. Like, I don't know. Because then we have to have a time to plan the content before you even make it. So that's something I still have not figured out for myself. Like, I don't have a good system, and I need systems for stuff like that. Like, otherwise, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah,
So,
I
hence
think
why
that's
I've
something
not done
we'll
it.
I mean, sometimes I think we've experienced just having goals that we set. We're like, yeah, we're going to try and do it this way. And then it just doesn't happen at all over the year. So that's why it's important to sit
Hmm.
down and reevaluate again and be like, well, that didn't happen that way. Let's try a different way because if we keep trying to do that, it's not going to work. So we need a new
Yeah.
system or a new plan. So, those were some of the audit questions we just went through that are included in the Map Out Your Year workbook. The workbook not only has like those broad questions about auditing your business, but it also has a bunch of questions about like your data for your projects and your clients. It's very designer focused, it's made for designers. And it just has a lot of incredible prompts that are going to help you evaluate your year and then also plan for a successful New Year's and set those specific goals for yourself based off of the data, based off of how you've been feeling. We've done that, a Map Out Your Year workshop as a paid workshop before, but we're offering you this workbook for free, just as a free download. And it really is like a lot of the questions we ask ourselves at our year end planning meeting. So if you want
Hmm.
to grab that workbook, you can get it at foxtrotbranding.com/map-out-your year, or you can just use the link in the show notes if you want to grab it. But I think it's a great free download just to have, even if you're not sure if you're going to do it, like may as well go ahead and download it just so you have it.
So, we're going to go ahead and tell you next episode, we're going to be doing kind of a part two to this. So, this episode was all about analyzing your past year, what went well, what didn't, looking at your data. Next episode will be early in January. So, you can actually use this when you're doing your New Year planning, and actually follow along and like set your goals and stuff for the year. So, it'll be using that same workbook. So, whether you download it now or then, it's going to be really helpful if you want to listen to that, or if you want to use that workbook while listening to the podcast.
So, to wrap things up for this episode, we're going to end with doing a listener question. And this is a question that comes from one of our Slack groups because we have Slack communities for all of our courses. And somebody had asked in our Squarespace course Slack group, when do you ask your clients for their Pinterest board? They said this is something they want to be able to review in the strategy meeting together, but they found that having their client create a Pinterest board can be one of those sticking points that like holds up the timeline if the client doesn't complete it. So, Amanda, when do we ask our clients for a Pinterest board?
Yeah, so whenever we onboard them into our project management system, which we use Basecamp, we have like templates for everything, so it's kind of already done for us. But they do have a task. So instead of just like kind of telling them, hey, send us a Pinterest board, we set it as a task with a to do date. We have like links to everything, and we give them specific instructions that we want this Pinterest board before their strategy meeting with us. So we want it to be completely done like the week or two before then. That gives them plenty of time. And we'll give them some pointers like, hey, if you can look through our Pinterest if you're looking for inspiration, please include maybe like 20 pins of like brand or web designs or photography, things that inspire you or you think connects to your branding vision. So stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely ask for that well in advance of our actual strategy meeting at the start of the project so that it's already done. And we've not had any sticking point issues, with that. Like pretty much all clients have been able to like get that done. And I think that's kind of the benefit of having a project management system as well, is that You can set those due dates. It's set up to send them an auto email reminder.
I think also because we make it clear the purpose of the board, I think if you're running into a sticking point, it maybe is because your clients are feeling like, oh, I have to come up with a board of exactly what I want for my branding or
Yeah.
my web design. No, that's not the purpose of a Pinterest board for us. Really, it's just going to be a starting point, a jumping off point for a visual reference for the
Mhm.
project. So let them know, like, hey, just pin a few things that inspire you. This is a jumping off point. We'll go through it at our strategy meeting.
Yeah, because the way that we do things too, like we're never gonna use that client's Pinterest board and then just plug all of that into the mood board and call it a day. We're using that Pinterest board just like as Cass said, like a jumping off point, things to look at to compare, like, do you like this style font or this one? Which color palette do you lean more towards? And then we will consider that when we're creating the brand direction, but we sometimes don't include what they put in there. It kind of just depends. So you're still the expert, you're still the brand strategist, you're still the brand designer, but you can use like their Pinterest board for like a starting point.
Okay, we will wrap up this episode there. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for listening. We hope to see you guys in our next episode where we talk about planning and setting goals for the new year. The link to the Map Out Your Year workbook is going to be in the description, so don't forget to grab that free download. And if you have a listener question that you want us to answer, you can leave a comment on this episode or send us a DM on Instagram. We're at Foxtrot Branding, and you can find all of our templates and courses for designers at foxtrotbranding.com. And we'll see you in our next episode.
See you next year.
Bye, guys.